The Maimer continues on page 118. We're finishing the Maimer 118, 3 and 4, and 119, 1 and 2. The general story, the Megillah says the Alter Rebbe is Homon wanted to annihilate the entire Jewish people. What bothered him? What was driving him mad? What bothered him was that Yidden were thinking about Achdus Hashem. That's why he said in his words to Achshveiroish to annihilate the Jewish people, he said, Yesh noi am echod, there is one nation, says the Alter Rebbe. What does it mean, Yesh noi am echod? They say Hashem echod always, in every place. And Homon was the antithesis of Hashem echod. He was from Amalek who hates Hashem echod. He's Yeshus, Metzias, couldn't stand that bittul. What saved the Yidden? This was their Mesiris Nefesh and Echod, that they didn't want to change their religion in any way, even if they would kill them. That was Mesiris Nefesh. This is actually a shit of the Alter Rebbe in his Drushim on the Megillah, that the Yidden stood in Mesiris Nefesh because if they want to, they could have changed religions. Not like other Mefarshim. This is Alter Rebbe learns. Then it says, Ki muvi kibla Yehudi. Even though that the word kiblu is Loshen Rabim, they accepted upon themselves, it's Loshen Yochid. It's Vikibel without a Vav. Because by Matan Teda they had Mesiris Nefesh. And like we know, the Gemara says that every one of the 10 commandments, their souls left their bodies, like it's known about Kof, Alem Hakigigis, but it was their souls, their body was still not elevated. But in the time was Achshveiroish, they had Mesiris Nefesh and Achdus Hashem, and they had complete bittul. You say Ki Muvi Ki Bla Yehudi Maseh Sharei Chilu Lasis. They had a full. They brought what they started in Matan Teda Echilu, Matan Teda Neshomes. So now it was Kibla with their bodies. They were changed. This is why it says Kibla Loshen Yochid. How does it say Kibla Loshen Yochid? Because they were ba'achdos. This is what the Maimer says. That they accepted upon themselves what they accepted in the past by Matan Teda, as it's explained in the Gemara in Shabbos. And in the first Perek Megillah it says, Ki mulemailo, they accepted lemailo. Mashakiblu lemata, didn't accept it upon themselves to make Purim Hayom Tov. Because Yidden did something lemata, and they changed, their bodies changed, so they accepted lemaila. This is what Alter Rebbe says. It says an interesting pasuk in the Megillah that they did all this and they wrote all down. Mado al kocho mo'igia aleihem. What did they find out? That through their Mesiris Nefesh, in total unison, they were zeiche that mo higia aleihem, that the level of mo came to them. Says the Alter Rebbe, what's mo that came to them? That they were celebrating. We know, I always don't say this, it's explained as the level of ma. And the level of ban. Ban are the sparks that are brought back, that are elevated from Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, the 288 sparks. Like it's known, and it was mentioned before in this Maimer, Vatokom boid laila vatitin teref. Teref is 289. Rapachim akoilel. Ma is a higher level than ban, and it elevates ban. Because Ma is connected with Chochma, like it says in Zoyar, V'chochma is beriru. And we know that Shviras HaKelim was only on the 7 lower levels of Chochma, but 7 lower levels of Bina. But not in Chochma. In Chochma, there was no Shviras HaKelim, and this is the meaning in the Pasuk in Iyov, Yom Musu V'lei B'chochma. And then in Chochma, there was no concept of Misa and Shviras HaKelim. Shviras HaKelim simply means that the Shviras couldn't get along. They had my way or the highway, and they clashed. Chochma, that's Beetle. There was no level of Misa because they're Beetle in Ayin, like it says. Chochma is humility to higher, so there's no clashing. And also, Chochma is called Keach Ma'Bitul, and this Sibah of the breaking is because every Sfira said, Anoim Leich, like it's explained, I will be king, and he didn't give place for someone else. That's why the Shvira Sakelim is only in the level of Chochma, was not in Chochma, I mean, only from Bina and lower, because the Midas are included in Bina, and Midas is subjectivity, Yeshes, because also in Bina there's also called Yesh. Bina is already the Chavis Hanor. It takes the spark of Chochma and develops it. But Chochma is before it's developed, there is the level of Shviras HaKelim. Even in Bina, there was no true Shvira. It says in Eitz Chaim, only the Achirayim, the back of Chochma Bina fell. But Das is the connector from Bina to correct Midos. There was a Shvira, not in Bina, but on the Achirayim, the Abba of the Ima, and in Das. Das is Mokir of the Midas, and the Midas, emotions by nature, difference between intellect and emotions is that emotions is subjective, how I feel. It's more the level of I. That's why the first of the Midas that had the Shviras HaKelim was Bela Ben Be'er, like it's explained in great detail elsewhere. All the kings from Esau that died at the end of Parsha Vayishlach. Das comes also from Chochma. That's why the Zohar says that the Samach Mem doesn't have the ability of Das to have kids. Doesn't have the ability to have kids. Because because Das has kids, but in Das there's a ray and energy of Chochma. It says because if the Samach Mem had Das, he would have children and it would destroy the entire world. And that's why it's explained according to the Kabbalah that Ben Mitzrayim got pure. He had 2 birds, because Klippa is connected with the birds, which is Chochma Bina. If Klippa didn't need a 3rd bird for Das, because Das is missing in Klippa. because das is connected also with chokhmah, and in chokhmah there was no shviras hakelim, so that's why there's no das in klipa, and that's why the Yetzer Hara is called Melech Zokin, an older king. He's called older because he comes to the person before his bar mitzvah, and the Yetzer Teva only comes to the bar mitzvah, so he's older. He's also called a ksil, a fool. Why is he called a fool? Because he's missing das. And it's explicit in the Zohar and Parsha Vayeshev, in the commentary of the Ramaz over there, that he's called Exil because he has no das. So even if someone has Chochmah Binah, he needs, in order to change him, Chochmah Binah needs the property of das, like it says in the Medrash in the beginning of Parshas Vayikra. If you're missing das, what do you have? Because if it cannot change you and cannot make midis in you, then you're missing the boat. That's why it also says that a Talmud Chacham without das, it says a very strict lashon. An avela is better than him. And it says in Chazal, the 5th chapter of Brachos, if someone doesn't have das, you don't have mercy on him, because das is very important. And das is connected with chokhmah, like we said before. That's why it says v'libi ro harbi chokhmah v'das. Posik in Koheles 1:16 connects chokhmah and das because they're connected. Because in chokhmah is infinity, and infinity comes into chokhmah and insof because it's humble, and through the keich of insof he could have children. If it means physical children or spiritual children. Because when you have the chokhmah, you have power to have kids. Because like he explains in the Maimon, that without das, there is no kids. And that's why Klippa doesn't have das, so they shouldn't multiply. But when you have das and when you have chokhmah, there's no shviras hakelim over there. Over there could be kids. Now we understand what the Jews were celebrating on Purim. They say, and they have level of chokhmah. And there's a sof. In chokhmah, they got it. Got it, mamish. Higher from the place where there was Misha. In the 7 kings, like explained before. Because Yamus of Alei Chokhmah. There's no Shviras Hakelim in Chokhmah, and Chokhmah gives life, the opposite of death. So they got this amazing level. Why? Because they had Mesiras Nefesh and Kiddush Hashem. So they got the eternal life, which is in Chokhmah, which is Eitz HaChaim, higher than Eitz HaDas. In Eitz HaDas, there was Shviras Hakelim, but in Eitz HaChaim, tree of life that Hashem was worried that Adam Rishon should eat. There it says, if he'll eat it, he'll live forever because it's higher than Shviras Hakelim, and Shviras Hakelim is connected with death. So the Yidden was celebrating This is what the Chazal say. It says in the Gemara, Gemara says, it says by the Eitz Hadas Hamino Eitz. So the question is, what's the connection with Homon with Eitz Hadas? So the Alter Rebbe says, because Eitz Hadas there has a unique Amoleg is energy from there, because there was a Shviras Hakelim over there, and it's connected. Eitz Hadas is connected with the oiref, the stick, the oiref in back of the brain, which covers on das, and it's just explained elsewhere about the Geirol, and they were zeichet to Eitz HaChaim that rid Hamor. And that's why they were able to be stronger than Homon, because they had Eitz HaChaim, and he only got his energy and sustenance from Eitz HaDas. So now we understand why they celebrated, because Umoy. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, what does it say? Umero al kocho, and then Umoy. What's Umero al kocho? So the Alter Rebbe begins to explain what it says, that all the Nevi'im had their Nevi'ah B'koy. Moshe had his Nevi'us in the Lashon of Zeh. Let's explain on this. Difference between Koy and Zeh. Koy means you're comparing things. It's like, it's a dimion, because it's only a revelation of godliness that's like godliness. And they had it with the, like the Gemara says, the Zohar says, it's it's a glass that's not, you can't clearly see it. It's so all the Nevi'im were only Koy, but Moshe Rabbeinu was Zeh. He saw the essence of Hashem, like he's in Atzilus, like that. That's why Klal Yisrael, Mashiach will come, will see God when it's clear. Without any veil, we'll say V'Omar B'Yem Ahu Hinei Elikeinu Zeki Binuleh. So here too it says Mero al Kocho. Kocho is like Koi, but with an extra chof, to say that it's double veil. It's a ha'oreh, the ha'oreh, and a dimyon, the dimyon. So ma, and the Alter Rebbe explains, talking about ma v'atziles, it's zeh, this is it. It's not only something that's similar to it, it's expire, amira, you see godliness clear. But in order to come down to the world of Bria, it's only a dimyon, like Yecheskel says in the chariot of Yecheskel, Mare Demus Kved Hashem. He saw it in Bria, didn't see clear godliness in Atzilus. So he saw Mare Demus, that's Koi. And when the light goes even lower from Bria to Yetzirah, it's called Kocha. It's a Ha'oreh, the Ha'oreh, the Ha'oreh. In the words of the Alter Rebbe, Dimyon, Le Dimyon. So this is what they were celebrating. Umero al Kocha. That even when they were at the level of Kocha, there was tremendous tzimtzumim. They saw the Ma'avatzilas. They got the highest levels. Since we explained before in the Maimon that even while they were in Shushan, they had the Zayin Eicholes that are called Shevan Oris, and they had Air Pnimi and they had Air Malchus, which is called Purim Homon. They had everything. It was hidden, but they had everything. The Shechina came to them. So everything that's in Chumash and Teresh Riksav is also Megillas Esther. But the difference is that Teresh is called a Sefer, the Megillah is called a Igeres. And it's explained, Igeres is a letter. Sometimes the Megillah is called a Sefer, like it says in the Gemara in the second chapter of Megillah. The Gemara says in the 19th page over there that Megillah is called a Sefer and called a Igeres. So Megillah on one hand is a letter. And to understand the difference between a letter and a book and a sefer, Derech Moshe, we see a sefer is everlasting. Sefer Atera. Like Moshe Rabbeinu says, if you don't forgive the Jewish people, erase me from your sefer Torah. But I get it, it's a letter you write for a time. It's not made to last. You read the letter, then you take it and you burn it, or you throw it away. Because Igeres is only to know what to do on the time, and then you get rid of it. This is the difference between Torah Shabiksav and Torah Shabal Peh and Megillah Esther. The Torah is called only a book; it's everlasting, like it says, "L'yom or Sefer HaTorah," as in the Sefer Torah will never leave, because it's nitzchi and everlasting. Because in Torah Shabiksav you have the true and infinite light coming in the letters and will never stop. And that's why even if you miss one letter, it's not called a Torah anymore. It's the ultimate authentic word of the Lord. You can't change it. You take off one letter, you make possible the whole Sefer Torah. It's infinite light shining in the Chumash. But Megillah, even though there's everything there, it's in the Sefer Torah, but it's only for a short time. When they were in Achshveiroish, because the Shekhinah went with them to Golus, Moduy, and Yovan. But as soon as they left the exile, there's no reason that the Shekhinah should stay there. And the light goes back, so that's why it's called not a Sefer, it's called a Igeres. And once the Shekhinah leaves Golus, you don't need it anymore. Then there's a footnote. He brings from the Eitz Chaim that explains the Gemara in Masechta Megillah Daf Yutes. Sometimes the Megillah is a Sefer and sometimes it's a Igeres, because Megillah means revelation. And it's Yisod Abba. So when it's in Zohar, it's called a Sefer. When it's Malchus, it's called a Igeres. It's a footnote. I would say it's from the Tzemach Tzedek, showing that this concept is also explained in the Pri Eitz Chaim of that Arizal. But then he goes further. We understand why Megillah is a letter. Megillah is a letter because it's only time for a certain period in history where godliness came down to the Golus and Shushan. It's not like Torah Shabiksav. Alter Rebbe goes in further explaining that the Megillah is also called a Sefer because in the Megillah is all the authenticity that is in the Chumash. It's really called a Sefer, but it's not as everlasting as the Chumash. Then he says, sometimes the Megillah is also called a Sefer. Why is it called a Sefer? Even though if you look at it at face value, it only has something that's at a certain point of history, you needed it. The way there in Golus, it's not as everlasting as a Sefer Torah, but in a hidden way, it has everything, and it has everything in an eternal way. But it's called a Geras because you don't see it. And after Mordechai and Esther died, and after the Gezeres of Homon stopped, there was no real need for it. But really, if you look deeper into it, it's like a Sefer Torah because the eternity, the highest levels, came down and were revealed through the Megillah. Alter Rebbe brings what it says in the Zayad. The Torah also has the revealed part of the Torah and the hidden part of the Torah. So in the revealed part of the Megillah, it's a letter. But in the hidden part of the Megillah, in this letter is the whole nitzchias, the eternity of Chumash. Like it says, that Avraham Avinu did the whole Torah. And we know that he didn't have the clothes of the Kohen Gadol. And he didn't eat matzah, but he did the spirituality of that. Like it's higher, like it's in heaven, the spiritual without the physical vessels of tefillin and matzah. Matzah may be 8. Tefillin and the choshen and the ephod. but also in the relation of Torah Shebiksav, even when it came down here in physical vessels, it is still the Nitzchias, its eternity, is revealed, but in Megillas Esther. It's not revealed the eternity, but in the Helim, in the hidden part of the Megillah. The Megillah is like a Sefer Torah, and it's called Sefer because there is a certain nitzchis in the Megillah that went down with the Yidden. Even though they were in a level of kocha, of tremendous tzimtzumim, they still, through their Mesiras Nefesh, elicited the highest level of nitzchis. So that's why in the Megillah, Behelim, you have it's called a Sefer, and it's called in the Gedes, because Behelim, it has the entire Nitzchis of a Sefer. This was what we understood, what he began the Maimer with. That when Mashiach will come, the Halachas and the Megillas Esther will not cease, even though there were greater miracles in Tanakh than Esther, like he asked in the beginning of the Maimer, because the Megillas Esther has everything that a Sefer Torah has eternity, so it will never cease, like it says in the Megillah. The Yemei Purim Homon lo yavru, they will never cease, even Mashiach will come. The same is true. Besides Chumash and Megillah, there's also all the 613 halachas of Torah Shabbat Peh, even though they not all explained explicitly in the Chumash, but they're hidden in the halachas. They too, the 613 halachas and all their explanation, have a certain eternity like the Chumash, because they're also connected with Chochmah law. And like we said before, that anything to do with Chochmah is everlasting. And like it's explained in the Pasuk, Al Kain Korol Hayom Ele Purim, it says Alichas Elam. Al Tikri Alichis Ela Aloches, that the Aloches are Alichis. Alichis means ways that bring forth from the level of Chochmas Odom Toir Ponov. Should come down into Yoir Hashem Ponov Elecha. That godliness should shine in the world. The nitzchias of God is through the halachos. And also the Megillah Esther from that level, like it says in the Gemara in Chulin. How do we know Esther from the Chumash? It says, Vanechi, Aster, Pone Bayemahu. So the Alter Rebbe's Medayik, you say, I hide my face. There'll be a face, but the face will be hidden. And through the Mesiras Nefesh, they took this hidden face and they were megala it, and it was like Yehudi Moisei Rebesimcha V'Sasa V'Kor. Now, even though Purim is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, but it says in the Medrash Rabbi Pashas Nosei, it says by the Nosi Ephraim, it says, and we know, Pshat is, says over there, that be more than Chumash, more than the mitzvahs, be careful with Divrei Seifrim. Like it says, Tevim deidecho miyoyin, better is the word, the mitzvahs that are bona. The Divrei Doidim are better from the actual Torah. There's a greater nitzchias. Like it's explained in the last Perek of Sanhedrin, Cheimer b'Divrei Seifrim b'Divrei Torah, that mitzvahs that are bona are greater. As it says in Sefer Yitzira, we say in the Bar Mitzvah Maimon, that the Eibishter created the world in three things: b'Sefer, v'Sipur. And Divrei Seifrim come from Sefer. which is higher than Sefer, because Sefer is the scribe that writes the Sefer. So they come from a higher level. That's why, since the Sefer will be everlasting, the Chumash will be everlasting. So the Sefer for sure will be everlasting. That's why all the mitzvahs that are Abona and all the explanations to the 630 mitzvahs will also be everlasting. Same way as the Megillah, it's also called Sefer, because in it has the nitzchias, the eternity of a Sefer Torah. This fascinating medrash. Medrash says on the pasuk in Rosh V'nei Be'az B'amin Be'slech. Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yenison, Rabbi Shmuel said that the Megillah was not said from the Bezdin, but it was said for the Eibishter and Sinai to Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why it doesn't say V'ki Blu Yehudi, but it's written V'ki Beil Moshe Rabbeinu. He got the Megillah. This is what the Medrash says. So it's directly from Hashem. There's a fascinating Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi says that why didn't we get it from Moshe? And he says if we got the Megillah direct from Moshe, then we would know the end story. We wouldn't really be doubting to Hashem to save us from Homon, because we would know the end story. It's all going to be good. Anyways, but it's all from Moshe Rabbeinu. He says another connection from the halachas that are nitzchias to Megillah Esther, because the halachas come from Chochmah, which is called Sefer. I guess Bina is the Sefer. So that's why we said before in great length, Moro al Kochon Moigi Aleim, that they got the level of Ma. Even though it was Mero al Kocha, the great Tzimtzumim of Kocha, nevertheless Mo. Higi Aleim, so it's greater than the Vim. The Vim only had Koi. That's why they will cease. Because it says, Mashiach will come, what will shine in Elikeinu Zeh. We will all say to Hashem Zeh, we will all be like Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's where the Torah was given through Moshe. So, but the other prophets that were Koi will be bottled for the great light of Zeh, when Mashiach will come, like it says, what's a candle do in daylight? And that's Torah. Like it says by the Luches. Mizeh u'mizehim ksuvim, to show that Torah is a concept of Zeh, God in a certain revealed way. And the halachos are also from Zeh. And they're called Divrei Sefer. And the Megillah Esther is in the same ways connected with Zeh, not with Koi, because Koi is in Bina, where over there was the Shviras HaKelim and the Tzimtzumim. But Megillah Esther is Meh, connected from Chochmah. Moro al Kochom Magi Aleim. That's why it's everlasting. It's also interesting when it says in Bishalach, Save Zikorim Basefer. Write Zois in a Sefer. Gemara says that Esther wanted the Yidden, the Sanhedrin, should write down the Megillah, and they told her, bring us a proof from our pasuk. Anyways, we won't go into the details, but it says there, Zeis is Megillah Esther. And it says, because Zeis is Zeh, not Koi. Write Zeis Basefer, because Teir is also called Zeis. More, it says in Menachos. The Gemara says, Yovoi Zeh, Yikabel Zeis, Mizeh Amzu, that's Moshe. It says Zeh Moshe Ish, and Teir is called Zeis. He should take it from Mizeh. From the Abish is called Zeh Kelev Anveyu, La Amzu. That's Yidden that are called Amzu Konisa. So that's why it says Zeis Yikorim Basefer. So as Megillah is there. So since it's such an order that Yidden through their Mesiras Nefesh brought down this level of Moro al Kocho, that's why they brought the Nitzchis into the Megillah, and the Megillah is everlasting more than the whole Tanakh. Yasher Koyach, till here is the Maimon.